All right, welcome back to the Low Stick Podcast. You can see we've got a few other people on here, and we'll explain what's going on here in just a moment. But we've got some exciting news with my co-host Eric Detman. I'm Jason Retz. What's the new news, Eric?
Yeah, super exciting. We're actually partnering with First to the Finish. They reached out to us a couple weeks ago and asked if we'd be interested in doing some work with them, and we're super excited about that. So, what that looks like is, for those who aren't super familiar, First to the Finish has been providing high schools with quality uniforms for over 30 years. If you're looking to customize your teams with a sublimated custom uniform this season, you'll receive a 10% off your order with our code lowstick10 exclamation point. We're super excited about that. Custom sublimated uniforms allow easy reorders, unlimited customization, and they look really awesome. We're a program that uses those. I know you are as well. So really excited about that. If you're interested, call 800-747-9013, or you can email customer_service at fttf.com. And a reminder, use the code lowstick10 exclamation point.
And we'll put that information out there for you so you can see it. I can tell you, in the world of trying to match colors, using them has been nice because our boys' track uniforms match the colors of what we want. From brand to brand, they look different, so it's good to keep with the same thing. All right, so today we've got a special episode. We've got a couple athletes on here, one that belongs to me, one that belongs to you, and we really want to focus on athlete development as far as a runner, but also in leadership. On the last episode, we talked about both of these individuals just a little bit, and we decided it'd be a good idea for the listener at home to potentially hear from these guys along the way, that we're not just making this stuff up, that it's actually happening along the way. So I'll start. I've got Savanna Franzen here. She's a three-time All-Stater in cross country for me. She's the fastest female I've ever coached in cross country and in track, and has done an amazing job with her ducklings this year. Listen to the last episode, and you can figure out what that means moving forward. Who you got?
Yeah, I've got Finn Lee. So Finn's a senior at Lincoln High School, came out for the cross country team as a sophomore. And you could kind of tell right from the get-go that he was a kid who was really, was really quite talented. But what we learned over as he kind of aged into his junior and senior year is some of his leadership skills, and those really came to the forefront this year as a senior. He had the really challenging task of helping a team that had won state trophies the previous 2 years, who did not qualify for a state championship in his junior year, to get back on track. And he kind of led that squad, and we won a district title. We won a trophy at the state meet. We aren't who we are without Finn. And you kind of heard me talk about that a lot in the last podcast. But I'm super excited to have him on and hear him talk about what that looks like.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to interview each other's athletes. That way we don't lead any questions unturned as we go. So let me just lead off. Finn, it's great to have you here. What I know, you came into cross country as a sophomore, playing soccer as a freshman.
Football, football.
Football. I'm sorry. Sorry to disrespect that like that. But um, what for you made you choose cross country, or what did that look like for you?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on the podcast. The I chose to come out for cross country my sophomore year because the previous year, my freshman year, I didn't really have like a community of people. The football team was great, but it wasn't super connected like I wanted it to be, and I just needed a group of people to interact with, and just a community is what I needed. And I decided that cross country was the best way to do that because you don't really need to know any plays going into that. You don't need to be super good at dribbling a ball or, scoring goals. You just got to be able to run for a little bit. And so more than anything, it was just a kind of a ploy to meet some friends and make some connections, and yeah, just find a community.
So as you got going into your sophomore year, did you find that right away? I mean, what drove you to start where you are now?
Yeah, I think, I the first day was a little bit difficult just because I was a sophomore, and I didn't really know a whole lot of people on the team, and it was a little bit daunting. But something that really stood out to me about specifically the Lincoln High School cross country team is that everybody was just so welcoming. Coaches were super awesome. Everybody like seemed interested in me and wanted to talk to me about my life, my goals for the season, for running and all that kind of stuff. And it just like it kept me coming back every day over the summer, and being just excited to be there. And that's something that I think that is has maintained over my time at Lincoln High School is just this awesome, welcoming community. And we have a really great retention rate where we have kids who, like me, didn't do cross country, previously in high school and middle school, and then come out their first time and just love it and keep coming back for the rest of their high school career and even become, collegiate athletes for running cross country, which is super awesome.
So I'm gonna jump in here really quick just because Finn said something that I love. It makes me really proud when I say certain things and somebody be like, "Oh, that was a Newtonism. Like that was Mr. Newton who just said that." And Finn talking about retention rates is such a Demonism. I use that word all the time when it comes to trying to make sure that we're keeping kids in the program. So it makes me really proud that you hear that, Finn.
Yeah.
So, Savannah, let me dive in here. I think I met you your freshman year at Nike Outdoors. Um, what's been, obviously as a freshman, you were talented and experienced success and had the ability to travel and compete in the freshman mile at Nike Outdoors. What's been your biggest area of growth in the last 4 years?
Um, so I had a lot of like I don't know what I would call it. I had a lot of like injury and stuff. So I think probably the biggest area of growth was probably being able to like set that aside and being able to be patient with the work that I was doing to be able to get where I am now because it was not easy. Like um I would got really frustrated. I cried a lot, but now like I the only tears that I would cry were like happy tears, like this season, which sounds stupid, but that's like one of like my biggest areas of growth and being able to like take what I had gone through and what I had experienced and being able to like um just lead like my younger girls who they don't know what they're doing yet, which is like they're freshmen. So being able to take all everything that I've gone through and just to pass on like my wisdom, I guess if you want to call it, onto them, that's also like a large part of growth, I think, for me.
Sure. So having that experience as a freshman, some of those successes as a freshman, and then I won't necessarily call them struggles, but maybe setbacks with injuries and things like that. Like talking about overcoming that, that's amazing, right? And how many high school kids go through that? All of them, right? Like, where did you find some of that strength? Was it through your teammates? Was it through self-discovery? Was it through conversations with Coach Retz? Like, where did you find that to figure out like these things at some point are going to make me better, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment?
I think it might have been probably all of the above because
Mhm.
I really started um what was it like last winter, after the cross season. I did not have the cross season that I was hoping for. I was still a little banged up, but I started really running with like our guys team, and we're a really like close knit team anyways, guys and girls, but I didn't really have any girls near me remotely, and our one girl, she was injured, so I really started to run with the guys more, and that like uplifted me a lot. Like I mean, they just talked with me about everything, they believed in me, so that like they also held me accountable, so that really like got my mind right, helped me like self like development a little bit too. And Rhett and I had like we had numerous amounts of talks in his office, and just like one of the like largest ones we had was like talking about like how there are things in like the way that can like cloud our vision, and we just have to be able to look for the mountain and like be able to see that, which is like the success. And what it's going to take to get there, and it's not going to be linear, and it's going to take time. But if we're patient, then we'll get there.
I love watching Coach Retz just smile as you talk.
Well, it's funny because, the journey, every athlete, and Eric, you can attest to this, every athlete, you watch their journey along the way, and you just hope that it goes the right way. And it takes the strength of the individual to get through that. We can say anything we want, but at the end of the day, it comes to them. And to watch that progress happen has been a lot of fun along the way. So, Finn, let me ask you this. Okay, you guys saw a decent amount of success, and a lot, from what I understand, came on your leadership over the last calendar year, not just this season. How did that develop? Did you have somebody that was a role model for you along the way? Was those conversations with Coach Detman? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it comes back to community. I think I was really fortunate to be able to learn from some really, really excellent leaders, some really, really excellent role models and mentors. I listened to your podcast from last month, I think, and you mentioned Eamon Witten, and he was a really big mentor for me. And I think like throughout this season, whenever there became like challenges or maybe disputes on the team that I had to resolve, a big thing or a big mantra that I would come back to is like, what would Eamon do in this situation? And sometimes I had to ask him, what would you do in this situation? And he would give me advice and kind of guide my response to that. And also a lot of it comes from Coach Detman, who I think I was checking in with him all summer, giving him updates when if he couldn't make it to practice, telling him this is what's going on. And he was same way telling me, this is what I expect from you. This is what I need you to accomplish. You know, maybe focus on these guys during this practice, get them in this pace group or whatever. Um, and so, yeah, it's just communication with a whole bunch of different people, and just learning from people who are more experienced than me, in that respect. So, yeah.
Well, and the words are that people of your generation struggle to communicate, and it sounds like you're ahead of the curve as far as that's concerned. Do you feel like just that alone has helped with the success a little bit, your communication back and forth?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it just makes everything so much easier when you're able to just talk to people or ask for advice, be vulnerable, ask for advice, realize that, I'm not perfect at everything. I don't have all the experience. It's important to, open yourself up in that way. Yeah.
So, Savannah, let's toss it back to you. You've been working with Coach Retz for the last 4 years, which I think is super, super awesome. I imagine as a freshman, you're just kind of wide-eyed trying to soak it all in. And as a senior now, you're like his right-hand person. And he's going to you when it comes to some of these leadership things and wants or needs or asks for your team. How has your relationship evolved over the last 4 years?
You mean with Coach Ritz?
Hmm.
Well, I think like in the beginning, like when I was a freshman, I really had like a senior mentor as well. Even if she led me through like everything. I mean, everything that I knew was from her. So I feel like in that aspect, Rhett and I were close, but I mean, obviously we didn't like know each other like because I was just a freshman. So I feel like I was more so the things that he was relaying to Ava, then I would like pick up on those things, and I would like act through her, if that makes sense. But
Hmm.
then like through the years as I like faced like all that like adversity with injuries and stuff, then I came to him, and because I would like get freaked out because I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I'd talk to him, and then we'd figure out what to do, like just keep calm. And now like this year, I mean, we talk all the time, and anything that he says, I just go along with it. And like we even like during races, I think it's funnier now too, like when we're cheering on the guys when you're at Detweiler or anything. Like after I'd finish my race, like go to wherever he's at, and then we're just talking about how the race is going. We're like, oh, he should be up. He's fallen off, or like it's just. I think that's also a really fun thing about our relationship is that we just talk and we talk like during races and we also I think now I've matured a lot too this past year and um I like to joke with him and about being a teacher and I was like I will never do that. Like we just joke around a lot too now and I think our relationship is really great. And that's definitely one thing I'm gonna miss when I go off to have a new coach.
Yeah. Probably the most important question in this whole podcast. There was a certain nickname that Ava had for Coach Ratz. Has that maintained or has that fallen to the wayside?
What's the nickname? I feel like
Retzel?
oh yeah. Honestly, it's kind of fallen off. I should
Oh,
probably
That's a
bring that
good
back.
thing. No, that's a good
But
thing.
so that's awesome. I love to hear that. And it is super cool to hear how those relationships develop because it's, as a freshman, you're just trying to figure out what's going on. And in some ways, like similar to when you go off and run at the next level, like you have to rebuild that relationship. And it's, something I try to tell my kids is like, it's not going to be easy and don't expect that it's going to be the same thing that you have with me right now. You have to give that other person, that new person, that new coach, the same opportunity that you did me, even though we have this really great relationship. So this is maybe a little bit tougher, but it's probably not always been easy and it's probably not always been awesome. Is there a moment that you can think of whereas like we did not see eye to eye on this, but in the long run, that was a turning point for your guys' relationship to get to where you are now because you guys do have such an incredible relationship.
yeah, I would say um my like sophomore year I was really struggling because I had such a great freshman year and like everyone like was looking at me. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like where's she going to go? Like how far she's going to like come from her freshman year to her senior year already looking at that far." And I think I had a lot of pressure like I was putting on myself and when I didn't like surpass what I did my freshman year, my sophomore year, I was really hard on myself and I was really down on myself. And I think that made me separate myself a little bit, not even just from Reds, but from like the entire team, I guess, in a way. And also all of my senior like girls who was basically our entire team were gone. So I felt like it was just me. It wasn't just me, but I felt like it was. I was also the only girl who went to state that year, which was completely different. Being a sophomore, I also didn't know like really I hadn't experienced that before. So that was tough for me and then I don't know. I was very I was distancing myself and looking back I like I'm mad at myself for doing that, but I think me experiencing that just makes me realize now how great these relationships are. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like in the development, you almost need that other senior to be an assistant coach, and they have to go through some of the lumps to get there.
Yeah.
And Savannah has very much done that, and I would consider her an assistant coach on our team to help out. I can say one thing and not have to explain it to her, and she can explain it to the kids because she's been through there and been through that. I would say that we would both agree that having that other person that can support what we're trying to do when we're not there is very important. And I know Finn does that for you often to help out when you're in Chicago or wherever you're at, eating as many hot dogs as you can. Whatever the case may be, having that person or athlete on the team that can relay all of that information is super important. So Finn,
Yeah.
let me kind of switch this a little bit and talk about your training, right? You came in as a sophomore with very little running experience. What has the transition or the development of your training, what does it look like? Did you come in running 1 mile a week? What did it look like then to the progression to where it's at now? Because a lot of young coaches kind of want to know how do you progress to get to where you've been or where you're at now?
Yeah, that's a fun question too. When I first came into the program, I didn't really have any mileage goals or really any understanding whatsoever of what, weekly training should look like. I was just kind of going along with whatever my teammates did or whatever my coaches told me to do. And that kind of persisted through my entire sophomore cross country season. I was just kind of doing whatever. And I found, a little bit of success doing that, which is kind of cool. But then, at the end of the season, uh, I was insistent on continuing to run, and me and Detman had to have a pretty hard conversation about why I should probably not do that, and take my 2 week break so I can start building up for track. And then, sophomore year track season is really when I started to focus on consistency and just checking off all the boxes. Really just focusing on uh, just stringing weeks together, and a lot of that is because it was winter training, and so you have to do a lot of that by yourself, and so there's a lot more agency there. Um, and then so since then, mileage has just increased year after year. I started out probably my sophomore cross country season doing, I don't know, probably between 30 and 40 miles per week, I want to say. Um, Probably no more than that. And now I'm doing somewhere around 80. And that's, just what works for me, and that's what I'm finding success at. So yeah, I think an important part of the training journey has just been taking agency over it, and really defining what you want to get from it, and what I want to get from it, and where I want it to take me. And then obviously having Detman and the other coaching staff there to kind of craft that with me. So
And I think that's a big part of our program too. Not to jump in, Jason, but I appreciate Finn bringing that up because like, especially as new runners, like we're trying to build this idea of wanting to do it versus doing it because a coach is standing there with a stopwatch.
Yeah.
And and I think his story is great, right? Like he runs 80 miles a week because that works for him. And he said that that's not what everybody else does, but really trying to find like what makes the most sense for each individual. And Finn's done a great job of advocating for himself too and having those conversations.
So that answers part of the question I ready to ask here. But that's what I was going to say. When did you figure out that that was the formula for you in your development? Did that just come this last summer, or did you kind of figure that out as you started to progress?
that's I think between uh or I guess summer of my sophomore year, I realized that I could take bigger mileage, that it wasn't really a problem for me. I could stay pretty healthy doing 60 miles a week. Um, and then after junior year cross country season, I think there was a realization that to get back to um, where we needed to be, maybe some more work needed to happen. At least that was the thinking that I was having. And so, knowing that I could kind of handle bigger volume, I think I went to Detman and asked him like, can I jack my mileage up? Can I take that kind of risk, I suppose? And he was totally okay with it. Obviously, we don't want to do too much because then there's a higher risk for burnout, and kind of, I guess, rounds your ceiling a little bit more after the season or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think just this realization that I am okay with volume. I can take it.
Yeah, that's awesome to have the ownership from an athlete. I mean, that's just what we talked about. Not
Yeah.
influenced by, well, partially influenced by your coaches, but set on by you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Savannah, let's ask you a really similar question. Like, how have you evolved as a runner? So like coming in as a freshman, talented, where you are now, obviously super talented, like mileage wise, how has that evolved? Workout wise, how's that evolved? Like, have you changed things? Is it similar year over year? What does that look like?
Um, I'd say it kind of took a lot for us to figure out what worked for me. I'd say my freshman year, I honestly don't really remember what I did, but I was just with Ava a lot. I just like cut down. Um, and then like my sophomore year, I feel like it was kind of similar. I had some issues with my hips that we were trying to figure out, so that kind of put a knock in volume wise. And then my junior year, well, because actually after my sophomore year of cross, we took like a larger break in that winter training, and then I had another setback. I had something wrong with my knee, so I did some cross training in there. So that kind of looked a little different. And then my junior year, I'd say like after after cross season, when I really started to run with the guys more, that's when I'd say my volume jumped up more. Not to where it is now, but I definitely say that that's when it grew a little more, because I mean they were going sometime and they weren't going to turn around for me. So like I just had to make that like I was going with them. So I think that's when it really started to like take shape. And then this year now, I run like 40 to 50 miles a week, somewhere in there. And yeah, I'd pretty much just say like my volume just jumped then, because they're who I'm running with. So I can't really go shorter than them. I got to go with the group. So
Yeah. How has your racing evolved? Like as a freshman, I imagine it was the race plan in a lot of ways was probably follow Ava. And now you're making decisions throughout the race. And I'm going to try to, catch that person or want to finish in the top X of whatever this race. Like, how's that evolved for you?
yeah, I definitely think I have grown as a racer, 100%. Like my freshman year, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was just going out, keeping my eyes on Ava and just going as fast as I could. But now, I definitely have learned when to attack, who to stay with, because I mean, I pretty much know everyone that I'm racing against. Um, so I feel like I know now that I don't have that sense of eagerness anymore that I did when I was younger. Like I have more patience, and I know what's important and what's not, and like what I really need to focus on. And also sometimes, like I mean, we don't race every race all out, so also being able to like throw away that like sense of I need this time, I need this place, like being able to not be so caught up in that, and just being able to learn how to get better um after each race and know what's successful from that race has really just like brought me to how I am as a racer today. um but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
not
awesome.
to speak for her here, but her training along with the racing and just hitting checkpoints, right? Even though at times volume was lower, we were hitting the checkpoints of progression along the way and just getting healthier and healthier. She was not particularly happy with her performance as a junior at Detweiler, but it was our fastest time of the year and progression was still happening. So I think that led to a pretty great track season, which
Mhm.
then led to an even better cross country season going forward. So it wasn't the linear progression that you see, but we were checking the boxes of where we needed to be to come back healthy and be safe with what we were doing, and then just moving forward from there. Which is, I mean, essentially what Finn's been doing, checking the boxes to be able to stay healthy to run more miles along the way, right? Like
Yeah.
those necessary outlines and guidelines that the athlete shows are very important to be able to progress and do those things that they need to do. So, Finn, you had the opportunity to have some great leaders above you that you've learned from along the way. I'm sure that there are particular people on your team that you feel are kind of following in that. What do you hope going into your final track season here, leadership wise? You've seen all of cross country. What do you hope to be able to help teach these younger kids that are going to be in your shoes? Or what advice would you give to an athlete that is going to be in your shoes soon?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've improved on as a team from my sophomore year to now that I would like to see continue being the case is that we really emphasize like strength in numbers. we really emphasize that there's no division between the varsity and the junior varsity, um, between the boys team or the girls team, that we are this Lincoln High School community. We are a team, regardless of which race you're racing in. We all wear the same uniform and we're all contributing to the same goal. My sophomore year, I feel like that was still the case, but there's definitely a clear division between the varsity and the JV, and that just made it so I feel like some of the kids at the maybe who um, were I guess some of the JV kids, myself included, maybe didn't feel like we were as included in the team climate, in the team culture, as the varsity themselves were, just because they were so insulated from us. And now, one of my favorite things is every single practice, we have 20 guys together going and running together, 20, 30 guys, like this huge big group. And obviously, we don't all finish together. We don't all run the same mileage, but we all start together and we all run the same route together. And that's really awesome. It doesn't matter whether you're a senior who's been running since sixth grade or, a junior who this is your very first season ever. It doesn't matter what your goals are within the team, or with running. Everybody is friends. Everybody wants each other to succeed, and everybody is, willing to make that happen. And I think that's really shown up in how we've raced this season. I mean, we put like, I don't know, 20 guys maybe under 17 minutes this year, which is like that's depth that we've never seen before. And we're like by far the deepest team in the state of Oregon. And I think it's just because everybody just like is so enthusiastic about seeing one another succeed. Maybe even more than, seeing themselves succeed. I mean, the biggest smiles I've ever seen or when somebody's friend crosses the finish line with a big PR and that their friend comes over and gives them a great big hug. I think that's really awesome. And I more than anything, I just want that to continue. I want everybody to be striving for excellence together.
Have you had that direct conversation with some younger uh, teammates? Like, hey, see what's going on now. This is what needs to be continuous. Have you had those type of conversations, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a team camp, I think, which is like right before the official season starts over the summer for cross country. And during that team camp, we have several like boys talks, which is just where the boys team gets together without coaches, and we talk about culture and goals and all that kind of stuff. And it's been something that we've hammered on about kind of the entire season, that this is our strength. Our strength, we might not have like the most intense or craziest training, or we might not qualify for NXN, but our strength is that we have so many people together and so excited about this team and the progress that we're going to make. And yeah, that happened. We've had boys talks after practice this season where we've talked about how that is our greatest asset. It's really been the theme of not just this season, but also I'd say last season as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Savannah, similar type question, as we're wrapping this up. You were a freshman who had an awesome senior leader. Your team now has two young freshmen who are talented, and now you get to be that awesome senior leader. What do you want to tell them? What do you want them to walk away from the program thinking, feeling, experiencing, as you graduate to the collegiate level and they take over?
Yeah, I just want them to be able to like not care what other people say or what other people think, and to be able to devote themselves like into what we're doing. Like St. Joe is, I mean, like, I don't know, we used to be so strong in our programs, and I feel like right now we're just like slacking. Um, and I wouldn't say so in our program, but like all the other ones. And I just feel like that's just something that's coming with like how kids are now. But I just want them to like be able to also like stay positive. Like that's something that we really like I really preached about this season, because they're like, "Oh, like this is really hard, like whatever, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay, and like stay positive. Like that's what we're here to do, and that's like what we like are here to do, I guess." And I just want them like we also like I am like the leader, I guess, and we are not like a 20 girl deep team. We got 6. So each person is so important. And so like I'm passing it on to our junior, who will be the leader, but she's also involved in other things as well. So sometimes she's not there. So like I really talk to them, and I'm like you guys have to resemble me. Like you guys have to be together and keep the team together, because you guys are gonna have these eighth graders who aren't going to know what to do, and you got to take as much as you can from me and be able to put that into the team now, because you guys, whether you like it or not, you're going to be the leaders. Like that's how I was my sophomore year. That's how it works. Like if you're a low stick, like you are one of the top leaders, even if you are you're not an upperclassman. Like that's just how it works, especially in our small team. So that's really what I've told them. And then just not to like listen to what other people say, and to be able to be devoted and hardworking in everything that you do, whether it's um, cross country, school, anything. Like that's basically what I want them to take away from it all.
Yeah, I love that. And this idea of, I've used that and use this phrase in our program. It's like whether you want to or not. Sometimes you get thrust into a role that you're not necessarily ready for, or maybe you don't want to be a part of. But you're that person because people look up to you. And I think somebody like you is an excellent example of how wonderful that can be.
So Finn, let me ask you this final question. You finished cross country season. You went across that finish line, and there's just a wave of emotions when you know that that high school season is over, right? You're going to feel that again during track season. But what have you learned at the conclusion of this cross season that's going to help propel you into track season as an emotion that you've never felt before, right? Like I think back of 4x8 my senior year, on the big blue track at Eastern, handing off that baton and the wave of emotions that went through my body the moment that baton left my hand, and I knew I could never run with that St. Joe jersey on again. What did you feel at the end of cross country season that you're going to carry on for track season?
Yeah. Well, my cross country season ended at NXR, and unfortunately, it wasn't really the storybook ending that I wanted. I had a really bad, some sort of illness that I'd gotten the week before at state, and it just continued on. And something about, the elevation and how dry it is in Idaho really just kind of catalyzed a really bad race. And I wasn't able to finish, which was really hard. That was a really, really hard feeling to have, to know that like I didn't get to cross the finish line and turn around or look ahead and see the same people wearing that same uniform that I've been racing with all season. That was, I wouldn't say devastating, but it was not how I hoped the season would end. And that was just exacerbated by the fact that it was literally the last race on a cross country course ever, or at least in high school. Um, and so what I'm just really hoping for this track season is just to have fun. I just really want to make the most of running with these guys and being on relay teams with these guys, like you said, handing off that baton, and just you know I guess making it more of the ending that I would like it to be, where I do get to cross that finish line with them. And I do get to turn around and give them a hug and say, we just did that, that's cool. Yeah, I'd say I just like it to be fun. I just like to have a fun uh ending to the high school career.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think as a coach too, we use this phrase a lot in the program. And Finn is a really great example of this. But if you've got a bunch of people who feel this way, like you have something special, and that's, 15 seconds after it's over, you wish you could do it all over again.
Yeah.
And, if everybody feels that way, and I in my heart believe that, a large, large, large majority of kids at Lincoln High School in the cross country program feel that way. Like, I don't know that there's anything more special than that. But it is a good reminder to not take it for granted either,
Yeah.
because at some point it does end and you never get that experience back. And to put your heart and soul into it is really special. And Finn's been a great advocate of that for us. So, um, Savannah, I'll ask you something really similar as kind of a final question. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your goals for the spring? What are some of the things that you're hoping to accomplish as you end your St. Joe career?
I Rets knows this. I am so excited for track. Like I have been ready. Like I was super emotional when cross ended. Like crossing the line in the state meet and hugging Grace, finding out she all stated. Like it was such an awesome experience. But literally on the bus ride home, I was talking with Reds and I was like, man, I'm so ready for track because we had ran a time trial. We run on the Monday of state, and I ran like a 5:01, which is my PR was 5:13. So I like doing that gave me like I knew I'm more fit now than I ever have been. So I knew it was coming, but seeing that like gave me so much confidence. And for this track season, like I just feel like I haven't really had a healthy track season. I don't think. I started to get injuries my indoor season of freshman year, and um, so now I feel like I know I don't have anything to prove, but I do feel like I feel like I do. Like I just have some really big goals. Like I want to all state. I want to break 5. Like I think the guys on my team will like they'll be really mad if I don't break 5. So I'm really excited for that, and I I just think that I'm gonna do really well this track season, and I'm excited for that. Also moving on into college, like I feel like this track season is going to do a lot of the it's going to be a determining factor in where I go. Um, and also there's some records on our board in there for track, and I'm trying to get those as well. So yeah.
I think we
Awesome.
were walking away from um, the podium, and I had my arm over her shoulder, and she goes, "It's track season," and I am like, "Oh, let's go, let's race tomorrow." Ready for the excitement for sure. All right, so we appreciate you guys joining us. It's pretty awesome to hear both of your success stories and where you've come from, right? You've both developed in tremendous ways as not only athletes, but also leaders. And I don't want to speak for Coach Detman here, but as a coach, that's the more important component for us is who you develop into as people. And to watch how you've done it over the years has been a lot of fun to follow your journeys. As much as we're coaches, we're watching the journey along the way, and we guide the best we can, but ultimately that's you guys making those decisions. And so it's fun to watch your successes as we've gone throughout the course of the years here. Anything you want to throw on the end of this?
No, there's a reason we chose you two, and we're just really blessed to have you guys be on this podcast. And you guys are our first guests, but we're just really excited to have you be a part of this process that we've been on. And similar to what Jason said, like I'm a big believer, and I say this a lot, is like we have such a coaches I think have such a small role when it comes to the success of the athletes. Like we write workout plans, we encourage nutrition and going to sleep and things like that. Um, but we're simply just trying to give you guys the tools to make the decision to do the right thing. And you both do that in such an incredible way. So, yeah, I know I'll speak for Jason that like we're just super blessed to have you guys in our lives.
Well, have a great holiday. And we appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully, Santa brings you all kinds of wonderful toys along the way. And for those of you watching this, have a great holiday season and safe travels and good luck on the upcoming season. You'll probably see us again at the beginning of January before you kick off your season. We've got more fun in store. So remember, get your uniforms and your tents from first to the finish, and we'll see you soon.